Welcome to the Christ and Classics podcast, where we read the great books, or the classics, or old books, or anything you got. Oh, man. We read them in the light of Christ. My name is Devin, and I'm joined here with Colton Moore. Let's dive right in. Colton, Book 8. Take it away.
Oh, Book 8. This is like the the moment where you're like think November. Oh gosh, well, I, I'm
It is November.
well, I know. We're in like Northeast Texas, and so I'm thinking like it's a mild climate. It's like 65 degrees, but then there's that moment when that cold front first comes through, and that first gust of cold air, and you think, oh gosh, it's about to get real. And within about 10 minutes, the temperature drops 30 degrees. That's where we're at right now in Book 8. Like Book 8's this first gust of cold wind and the change of the weather. And it's like, oh, something's about to happen. And that's where we're at. And I'll take you away. So we're off the cuff of Book 7. Book 7, where Hector and Ajax have dueled. They've stopped. They've reconciled surprisingly in no man's land in the battlefield, and the Trojans and Greeks have also come onto the battlefield and gathered their dead unarmed. And you got this beautiful picture of peace within this chaotic war.
Mm-hmm.
And Book 8 comes around, and it begins with the gods. And our minds are immediately directed back up to Olympus, to the heavens. And Zeus is going to summon the gods and command them to not intervene. Only he's going to be the one to turn some tides in the war and get his fingers involved in them. But the rest of them are strictly forbidden to intervene, and at the cost of their own like lives, if you will. He threatens to throw them down into Tartarus if they disobey. He pulls out his famous golden scales to determine Achaea's, quote, day of doom, and the scales don't fall in their favor. The Trojans will drive them back, according to Zeus, for some reason that we'll talk about. The Trojans then drive the Greeks back all the way back to their ships, and then our attention is directed back up to the heavens, where Hera and Athena don't like what's going on, and they really begin to kind of like quasi involve themselves into the war. But Zeus quickly sends the messenger goddess Iris to stop them. And they comply. They make their way back up to Olympus with their tails tucked underneath their legs. And after Zeus rouses the Trojans against the Greeks, he comes back up to Olympus, and he tells them all, particularly Athena and Hera, that, hey, I'm going to kill these Greeks, and the Trojans are not going to stop killing the Greeks until Achilles rises beside the ship. So until Achilles comes out of the hole of his Myrmidon ship to fight. And the book ends with Trojans making hundreds of camps near the Greek ships. You get this picture of campfires that are just scattered all throughout on this beach near the ships. There's still a good bit of land between the ships and the Trojan camps, but by the end of Book 8, the Trojans seem to have the upper hand. They've slaughtered countless Greeks, and the Greeks are in a pretty tight spot. That's the cold wind, if you will, we're going to keep with that metaphor that Zeus is blowing. And we're going to explore a few different things, because this is a turning point in the book. And
How so?
Well, we'll get there. I wonder if it's worth beginning with examining a few of Zeus's words here at the beginning of Book 8, as he's talking to these gods and telling them, commanding them not to intervene. So
Yeah.
he
What
said
do you have in mind?
he's got in he says in line, was it 5, right at the beginning, "Hear me, all you gods and goddesses too, as I proclaim what the heart inside me urges. Let no lovely goddess and no god either try to fight against my strict decree. All submit, you all submit to it or me now. Here's the purpose. So that all the more quickly I can bring this violent business to an end." Oh, and then he gives a threat. "Any god I catch breaking ranks with us, eager to go and help the Trojans or Achaeans, back he comes to Olympus, whipped by the lightning, eternally disgraced, or I'll
Mm,
hurl him down to the murk of Tartarus, half a world away." And so, like, right there, Zeus is telling the gods, "You guys stay out of it because I've got this right now so that I can quickly bring all this to an end." The Greek is like, he says, "so that I can finish these things, these matters."
yeah.
And it's this sense where you've got a commander in chief who's like, "Okay, we're doing it my way or the highway right now." Like,
Right. Yeah, and he seems pretty, uh, I don't know, pretty bent on no one else can get involved and thwart what he's doing. He's directly overseeing how this battle is going to continue at this point.
does that then betray his own inability to perhaps control others to thwart his will? Like, I thought Zeus's will is inthwartable. Can they, like, are the other gods really in a position to where they could thwart his will?
It
Or
doesn't
is he,
seem like it, but they're going to make it really painful.
well, like, he keeps going on, like in line line 19. He says, "Then, like, once I've thrown you down into Tartarus, if you disobey me, then
Yeah,
he, that god or goddess, will know how far my power tops all the other gods." And he's like, "Come and try me. Come and
right.
try me. Hang a great golden cable down from the heavens. Lay hold of it, all you gods, all goddesses too. You can never drag me down from the sky to the earth. Not Zeus, the highest and mightiest of all the kings." So he's saying, "You're going to do what I say, or this really bad thing's going to happen to you. And
Hmm.
besides, I'm the highest and mightiest." And so
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, Zeus, are like, of course you're the strongest, but like, are you really is in control of all this as you seem to put on? So there seems to be a couple of things going on with this whole thing at the beginning. Number one,
Hmm.
he's got a purpose to accomplish, which is to bring all the matters to an end, bring his entire will to its end goal, which we see uh, uh, in book 1 with the proem, but also two, to show forth his mighty power, his exaltation over the other gods for some reason, um, in a really kind of self-promoting and violent way.
It almost sounds
And
insecure.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
And it's so foreign to the God of the Christian scriptures, who
Hmm.
it
Right.
scoffs in the face of other challengers. He laughs at them. it's
Right.
it's almost like this Tom Bombadil kind of picture from the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship,
Oh,
where
yeah.
Bombadil's met with this incredibly powerful and uh, wicked strength of the enemy, and he just laughs at it. And it's like, and he throws it up in the air, he puts it on, it doesn't have any effect, and he gives it back to Frodo. And th- it's a good picture of the Christian God
Hmm.
when met with some evil force or even some challenger. He's just like, eh, you just stop what you're doing. Like, you're no match. But Zeus here seems to be flexing his muscles in somewhat of insecurity. Maybe that's us reading into it, but he seems to be kind of going over the top here.
Hmm.
Um,
It also reminds me of Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? Uh, and then, he who sits in the heavens laughs. The
Laughs.
Lord holds them in derision. And then he will speak to them in his wrath. and terrify them in his fury, saying, "As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill." Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
What?
contrast.
Yeah. And what also is has struck me about Zeus's opening words here, it's mainly that purpose clause. It's in line 9 through 10, which is
Hmm.
uh, so that all the more quickly I can bring this violent business of the war to an end. And like the adverb, all the more quickly in Greek, it's literally like it's a comparative, like really quickly. And I thought, like, well, why is he in such a hurry to do this? And then it dawned on me, it's like, oh well, this war has been going on for nearly 10 years, and it's probably time to wrap this thing up. But I, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it is odd.
Um,
It's odd. I mean, wrap it up quickly. It's been going on for so long. You would think you would have said that a lot earlier.
there's several themes that are here that have made their presence in the previous 7 books, and not the least
Hmm.
of which is what we see in book 1, with some of those major themes of rage and Zeus's commitment to Thetis's petition,
Right.
and the
Right.
centrality of Zeus's will accomplishing all of this. Well, just never mind that there's a fate that's behind Zeus that's really kind of controlling what he's doing. But
Well,
uh,
I actually there was some reference to Zeus and fate in this book, in book 8. Did you catch that
ah,
one? Um,
uh,
Hold on, I'm
where?
looking for it right now. Oh yeah, line 495 or so.
Okay, I'm there.
Uh,
Oh yes,
Hera is speaking to Athena, and she says, "Let Zeus decide the fates of the men of Troy and men of Argos both, to his deathless heart's content. That's only right."
yeah, interesting. I wonder if the word fate there in the original is the same word for fate that we get it that we have when it's capitalized as a proper noun to refer to. Uh,
Yeah, the deity of sorts.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting,
good
interesting.
question. I'd
Um,
have to refer to my friend Colton on that one.
I don't know about that. Homer's Greek is incredibly challenging. It's nothing like the New Testament, or especially and not like the early church fathers. Uh,
He's no humble koine.
no, it's well, it's kind of a side tangent, but we have a friend who's doing a PhD at Notre Dame, and he's doing some he's got a class in Homeric Greek, and he's just telling me how it's it's so different as far as like grammar, syntax, and even the meaning of certain words and spellings and all sorts of things like that. I mean, it is
Mm,
800, 900 years before Christ, and so you'd
yeah.
expect language to shift quite a bit.
Yeah,
So
just a little bit.
yeah, you can think of the English language 900 years ago, and
It
there's
doesn't exist.
lots of difference. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess, uh,
Sorry. Yeah. What the question you were saying something about the like the
well,
yeah, go ahead.
uh, there's a few questions that we could ask. So let's just stick with one.
All
Why
right.
does Zeus? We'll stick with one. Why does Zeus forbid the rest of the gods to intervene in the war so that he can
Hmm.
grant the Trojans the upper hand in battle? Like, why is he forbidding them, and which would allow him to only take responsibility for this uh, aspect of the Trojans uh, gaining the upper hand?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, historically, it seems that Zeus has been very indirect. He's not been, uh, uh, you know, primarily causing this or that. But I think it was maybe in book 2. Um, I, oh man, I can't remember the particulars at this point, but he was going to do something, and so he has. Uh, oh, I remember now. He has basically the the I think that's the one with sorry, I'm bumbling around here. He gives Agamemnon a dream, and then Agamemnon indirectly kind of um, berates the troops because
Uh-huh.
the troops were running away, um, saying, "All right, well, time to get out of here, time to go home," and then Odysseus and Nestor and the others say, "No, no, he's right. We gotta come on, men," and all this, and then that, as you know, Athena and Hera see Zeus, or not see Zeus, as they see the troops maybe leaning away, they help, you know, Odysseus and the others to really encourage the Greeks to keep on keeping on. And so you end up having Hera and Athena implementing exactly what Zeus wants, even though um, they don't want the same thing he wants, at least not immediately.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he's got this really roundabout, indirect, like secondary causation kind of thing going on. Except here in book 8, it seems to maybe turn around a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what's really clear for here in this text, in this book, is that um, the tides of the war are going to shift into the Trojans' favor, which is a direct fulfillment, a clear fulfillment that of Zeus's
His
um
nod.
his nod to Thetis. Thetis
Yeah,
at the very beginning is like, my son has been dishonored. Zeus, remember when I helped you? Please glorify him by allowing the Trojans to gain the upper hand. And
right.
now Zeus is doing just that explicitly. Explicitly. And albeit through a series of events, which is the I think the stepping stones of books 2 through 7 that's leading up to this moment, which will lead up to another moment. And so I think we have to keep in mind Zeus has got a petition to fulfill. He's bowed his head, and he has to fulfill it. And even Athena concedes to this in lines 423 to 427.
Hmm.
She's like whining, like, oh my, like, dad hates me. She says, but Zeus hates me now. He fulfills the plan of Thetis, who cupped his chin in her hand and kissed his knees, begging Zeus to exalt Achilles, scourge of cities.
I
But the
didn't
day will
quite.
come when father, well I know, calls me his darling gray-eyed girl again. And so,
I know.
like, like the gods know that Zeus has to answer this, and he's doing it right now explicitly. The Trojans have beat the Greeks back to the ships, not quite as severe as they will, but there's that. But I think the other thing is that
Yeah,
Zeus also has a commitment to raise Troy to the ground. Like,
yeah,
the very folks whom he's exalting currently will be the very folks that he destroys by Achilles' own hand.
right.
Um, Later on, as this book even prophesies. So I think that's these two pieces are central to understanding what uh, uh, this change of the winds, if you will, in the
Yeah,
book, in the poem.
yeah. He says, just to cite the place you're talking about, around line 545. This powerful Hector will never quit the fighting, not till swift Achilles rises beside the ships.
Yeah.
That day they battle against the high sterns, pinned in the fatal straits, and grappling for the body of Patroclus. So runs the doom of Zeus.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so there are no surprises. I mean, Homer somehow crafts, uh, you know, the, this epic poem that has endured generation after generation, millennia. And he gives away significant plot points at multiple points in the book. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and like it seems to be uh, a very different way of retelling a story than we're typically used to. Uh, I
Hmm.
think we mentioned this on a previous episode where, uh, for us moderns, we typically thrive on a story that's suspenseful, where you
Hmm.
don't know the outcome, but you're heavily alluded to the outcome, or there's a series of events that are conflicting that could go either way, and you're left with a suspense, and then at the end, it all resolves. Homer, right at the
Hmm.
very beginning, is like, "Hey, this is where the story is going," and perhaps, perhaps this has to do with a common oral tradition of the Trojan War, the Judgment of Paris that precedes it, and the
Right.
in the events of perhaps even uh the various characters that follow it, such as Odysseus and and the bards who would sing this and kind of compose on the spot.
Right.
Perhaps I mean it's all speculation right now for me, but perhaps like it's just part and parcel of it. We know this story. It's part of our common heritage, and the and so it's there are no surprises in that regard. But it is interesting to see how a knowledge of the end does affect the various characters' um, behavior, and uh, particularly with Achilles, who knows what his doom is uh,
Hmm.
by coming to war. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's maybe this is a tangent, but I've just been kind of reflecting on Zeus as a character and the comfort that he brings. At one point in this book, he so he had told the gods and the goddesses, "Don't get involved," and then he actually takes pity after Agamemnon um,
yes, yeah,
starts praying for relief. Zeus himself takes pity,
yeah,
and and then they start to rejoice because maybe they've got favor because the Zeus sends the eagle as um, a good omen of sorts, and it just made me think, why is anyone comforted to have Zeus on their side? Because he might be on your side today, and he might be on your opponent's side tomorrow. There's there really should be no comfort, um, because unless you just know exactly how it's going to end, and some people do, um, there really shouldn't be any comfort because he's unpredictable. The same guy who gives you favor gives someone else favor, you know. And on top of that, when you include the gods, um, uh, he's cruel. He's cruel to all of them. He's cruel to the gods. He's cruel to humanity, on both sides of the war. Um, I just sorry that's my little aside. That wow, Zeus really is cruel and kind of narcissist.
so all this is happening and coming to a head in book 8. Well, at least right now, it's going to really come to its fruition in book 9. Yeah. Well, and even then, there's more to come. But
Yeah.
I, I'm just amazed that the will of Zeus is coming toward its end through quite natural means. And I mean,
Hmm.
book 8, you could argue, is not a natural means because he weighs the scales and he puts it into the heart of the Trojans strength and into the heart of the Achaeans weakness. But
Yeah.
all the things that have led up to this point, such as uh, Agamemnon and Achilles tussle, Thetis' prayer, and then you've got Menelaus in Paris in books 2, I believe, 2 or 3, and they're about to end the war when they duel. Then Aphrodite pulls Paris away, and then You got
Yep.
Ponderus on the Trojan side, who breaks the sworn truce, which reignites the war.
Yeah.
Like which was spurred on by Athena, the goddess, and then they're battling it out. Diomedes gets some heroic focus in book 5 as just like a bloodthirsty, slaughtering machine who is killing men and wounding Ares and Aphrodite. But then, in the middle of all this chaotic bloodshed, you got books 6 and 7 where, uh, in the middle of all of it, there's a peace. There's an appropriate and beautiful peace among Diomedes and Glaucus, who've got a common uh, familial history. You've got Hector and
Hmm.
Ajax shaking hands and trading armor, and then both armies coming onto the battlefield once again, and it's all leading up to uh, what's happening here in book 8, and it's like Zeus doesn't just make things happen like out of thin air. He doesn't just say, "Okay, Achilles, here's your glory. Okay, Troy, you're going down." He's
Right.
in a sense perhaps even patient with this war being um, drug out to the degree that it's been drug out.
Yeah, when you think
And
about it, it's taken now, you know, books 2 through 8 for him to really make good on Thetis's request.
yeah,
That's, I mean,
yeah, and even then, it's not going to be fulfilled. Thetis' request isn't going to really be fulfilled until, oh gosh, uh, book 18, where Achilles will finally come out, and his mother will give him uh god wrought armor.
spoiler alert.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I,
For all of you listening and just reading along with us, I'd like to formally apologize for Colton's indiscretion.
hey, it's just in the spirit of Homer, right?
That's true.
So,
That's true.
book 8 is going to set us up for book 9, where our focus goes back to the Greeks, who are languishing by their ships, fearful that the Trojans are going to win this thing. And so, what do? They go to their only hope, which is Achilles. Achilles
Hmm.
comes back into focus in book 9. But before that can happen, Zeus here in book 8 has to turn the tides of the war to make the Trojans get the upper hand. And
Yeah, right.
I think that's the point of book 8. It's a transitional book that is a necessary step to drawing our attention to Achilles in book 9, uh,
Mm.
and and following and following. And so in that sense, it's like the, as I said earlier, like the first blow of the cold front air that you feel on a moderately warm day, and it's kind of surprising. Oh, cold front's about to come through. Hey,
Hmm.
sweetie, I know it's 65 degrees right now, and you're going to school, but you're going to need your coat because by 3 o'clock it's going to be 35. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where we're at in book 8.
But then it
And
seems like it warms back up to the 70s for a little while, and then
a little bit.
another frost will come around.
Yep, yep.
If
And the
you if you're catching what I'm throwing.
yeah, what's beautiful about that is um we're gonna get some really zoomed in 4K uh i- images of um footage of various heroes, just like we have with Diomedes. Book 5 was all
Hmm.
about Diomedes the warrior. We're gonna get a day of Agamemnon. We've already seen Hector in all his glory in book 6. We're gonna get
And
Agamemnon.
in this book, Hector was a superhero. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
two goddesses have to. He basically seems to be single-handedly destroying the Greek army, and it causes two Greek goddesses to um, say, you know what? I know we're gonna get in trouble, but we got to do something.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah, yeah. And going forward, I think Devin and I are going to we're going to take sections of the book of Homer's Iliad. We've kind of just concluded books 2 through 8, which are arguably considered a unit in themselves, and you could subdivide, of course. But I think we're going forward, starting with book 9, we're going to take um, sections of 2 to 3, maybe chapters, books at a time. And
Hmm.
I think that what that will allow us to do, and chime in, Devin, help me out. I think it'll allow us to make some more meta uh, meta connections across
Yeah.
books, and I think it'll be a little bit easier on readers to get a bigger picture of what the Iliad's all about, especially those listeners who may have not read the Iliad, but you find the podcast intriguing. Um,
Hmm.
it won't bog you down in the weeds so much,
Right.
and make it a little bit more enjoyable to listen to, kind of like a story, if you will. Like you're sitting by a campfire and your grandpa is telling you the story of Homer's Iliad. It's a similar kind of a feel, I would imagine. So
Yeah, Grandma Colton.
yeah, no,
Um,
I yeah. So
yeah. No, yeah. So some bigger chunks, that'll help push us through, uh, especially to help, yeah, as you said, see some of the larger connections. And I think it's worth just saying, that we're seeing something of a larger connection even here in books 1 through 8, as in the prologue you see, um, the rage of Achilles at the start of it, and at the end of the prologue, the will of Zeus. And then in book 2, or sorry, and then following the prologue, you have the rage of Achilles, and then it all kind of comes to a conclusion here in book 8, where it focuses entirely on the will of Zeus.
yeah,
And what would you expect? But in the next book, book 9, for Achilles to show back up. And so we see like maybe some cycles in the Iliad, forming something of a structure. Andrew Kern has he had a good podcast over there at the Cersei Institute on the structure of the Iliad, worth listening to. But basically that's his whole idea, that, oh yeah, the prologue, um, pattern, kind of forms, you know, maybe 3 larger sections in the book at large.
yeah, yeah,
So might, as we see that structure play out, might be, um, yeah, just helpful. I mean, I think I've always thought the prologue is kind of the skeleton key.
yep,
You know,
absolutely,
helps you understand what's going on, and
absolutely, absolutely. It's kind of like the yeah, skeleton key is a good analogy. It's the lens by which we can read read the Iliad and search for its main themes and developments of some of those that we see in the proem.
I thought that was the gospel, Colton.
Uh, of course, of course, we've got like 2 glasses on. Like Homer gives us his own set of glasses, right? That by which we read it, and then
And we got
we.
fit overs,
That's right.
like
That's right.
some, like a geriatric. Actually, I wear fit overs, so I'm not. I'm geriatric.
Well, um, well, guys, uh, thanks for thanks for listening. And
Yeah,
if you find the podcast encouraging, insightful, enjoyable, share it, like it,
subscribe. Yep.
subscribe, tell your friends. We're hoping that it's as beneficial to you all as it is to Devin and me. With that, I mean, I'm kind of ready to listen to Micah take us away. I've been trying to get this guy to finish finish this thing so that he can like put it on Apple, and I could tell all my friends that, hey, you need to
Oh,
go check out Micah's version. And
do you want
I
me to
hope
sing it?
go for it. Yeah, go ahead.
Be thou my
Oh gosh,
vision,
we gotta cut that out.
Lord.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, I do think it's great.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Waking or
Well,
sleeping, that
all right.
is my life.
Let's do it. See you next time.
Adios.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.